Hey, Simon.
Hi, Dean. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's a very nice day here in North Carolina. Welcome to episode 144. I have some questions for you. First,
Shoot.
let folks know a little bit about you, and then I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm Simon Akers. I am a founder of a marketing consultancy called Archman. I've been trading for the last 5.5 years. I'm over in the UK. So it's the afternoon here. Pink Floyd mug as well here.
Yeah.
So being true to that, having a cup of tea as a true Brit. But I've worked with clients in the UK, Europe, and around the world. Now, previously, I was working in agencies, running some key client relationships across planning, service, and strategy, and that very much born my consultancy, and within which I've been working with brands and agencies of all shapes and sizes to help them with their brands directly, sort of that kind of fractional challenges in marketing, but also
Right.
agencies and helping them be a bit better with their client services. So that's me and who I am, and yeah,
So here's a hypothetical then.
go for it.
A company has managed to convince you to be their fractional CMO,
Brilliant.
and you're looking at a 1 year engagement for these guys. Now, in the first couple 3 months, what's sort of like one win and one avoiding a loss kind of situation that you might try to put up on the board?
Okay, that's a good question.
Oh,
I think I've had a few of these engagements, and
mhm.
sometimes it's over a shorter period of time and it's more intense time wise, or
Yeah,
it might be over a longer period of time and it's more of a kind of a regular cadence check-in advisory situation. So it really does depend on the frequency and cadence of speech. But I think in terms of having what success looks like in those situations, it very much comes to the whole, if you sharpen the axe, the tree, chops easier. I think getting things right at the beginning is really important.
yeah,
And the way in which you engage with your prospective client, because ultimately, we're marketing ourselves, right, is understanding the need of the, usually it might be a founder-led business, hypothetically. It's being very, very tuned into what the business goal is, rather than just being this marketer person who does a few ads. That's not the preserve of what we're doing here. We're an advisor to help with business growth. So I think the early doors relationship is super key, and
right.
the briefing process, like I would say with any client or strategy, like having it super clear at the start. Now things always evolve, but I think by the time you've done your proposal and you've strawmanned what a scope could look like, by the time you get to engagement, you should be halfway towards what the plan is anyway. I think that's key. And the avoidant would be the opposite of that. Don't
Yeah,
just start and have a kickoff and see how it goes. But I mean, you're never going to know dogmatically everything, because things change, markets,
right.
clientele, founder whims. But I think the key thing is to actually have some semblance of plan at the start and clarity about what each other is. That single point of truth, if you like. That's what I would say.
Okay, so imagine that I'm the CEO of this client company.
Right.
We've convinced you to be our fractional CMO. Okay, today's day one of the official engagement, so we're having our first sit down as client and fractional CMO. So here's what I would say to you. You deal with a lot more CEOs than I'm ever going to deal with CMOs. So, as CEO, is there something I should start doing now that you're here to make things better? And is there something I should stop doing because it would slow down your progress or ultimately waste the company's money?
It's important to talk about briefing and get it right from the start, and have that
Yeah,
point where if I'm worth my time as a fractional CMO, it's because I've understood the need of your business and your vision, and I'm helping you as a partner, albeit semi-outsourced, execute on said vision of growth. So that's the starting point. But the
right.
secondary point to that, Dean, this my CEO client here, is that communication. Now, it's not a set and forget. This isn't an ad campaign. This is a strategic advisory service where we're working in step, hopefully, to do that. There's going to be times where you're going to go off and do your thing because you're busy trying to fight fires and pay the bills and all those kinds of things. And there's times where I just need to crack on and do my thing, albeit planning or training junior staff. But there has to
Right.
be that commitment to a regular, it might be weekly call or a trading call or a board meeting or a bi-weekly, the cadences of commitment. Because the moment you lose that, I I don't I'm disengaged, and you will be as well, and there's no value there.
Okay. Is there anything that I should like not do anymore, other than think I'm in charge of marketing when now I'm not, nor should I be?
No, no, of course, of course.
No.
There's definitely a piece around you, language in the company and how you
Right.
position marketing.
Oh, right.
Marketing
Yeah.
isn't necessarily, we talk about the 4 Ps and promotion and everything, and
Hmm.
it's all valid stuff, but it's such a small part. It's like saying I'm a chef because I, microwave one meal. There's so many elements of marketing, and I think for it to really succeed, the CEO needs to see it as a serious business function. And actually, I think there's that internal advocacy piece. If I'm working with an operations team or a salesperson or a junior marketer who's doing some digital stuff, there's an element of, I wouldn't say selling on my behalf, but definitely evangelizing the point and the commitment to this.
Mhm. Okay. So I've got some fill in the blank questions. I really like the fill in the blank questions because as the host, I have very little to do. Almost all of the work is shifted over to the guests. So it's a nice change.
Perfect.
Okay. So the answer can be as long as you want. So question one, many clients just don't understand what?
Many clients don't understand. You've
Too
almost
many
stumped me.
answers, right? Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's a lot of things there. I think a lot of clients still don't understand, and it's so prosaic, but it's important, the difference between marketing and advertising. I genuinely
Mhm.
think this is a basic thing that people in the marketing craft take for granted because we know we want to do orientation research, segmentation, targeting, positioning, activation, media planning, measurement. We want to do all those things, the holistic thing. But it's almost
Mhm.
like that Venn diagram of kind of what marketing is and what the understanding is. Gap for me sometimes it's kind of like, I would engage with a potential customer. It's like, oh, I can help with this, fill the gap and be an extension of you, and I can help your junior staff. And it's like, yeah, but we've got so and so doing those ads, and that I think that's a big gap experience. Not every client, but there's definitely been a theme there.
So you would say then, or maybe not, but a company can have great advertising, but overall still have mediocre marketing.
Good marketing to do good advertising because advertising is
Mhm.
born out of an insight, understanding the audience, good creative
Right.
targeting. There's a piece. It takes a village in a way to get a good ad. You can do ads, but I think I always say this to people: the tail doesn't wag the dog when it comes to say media planning and the self-serve platforms. I think the
Hmm.
preserve of ease and because I can go on accountancy software, but it doesn't make me a CFO, right? Like I would not
Right.
claim to know depreciation and amortization. They would. It's the same with marketing. A lot of people have access to TikTok platforms and Instagram and Meta. Sorry, doesn't mean that they know what to do and what they've seen and they can replicate and get a cursory ROAS number, but it doesn't necessarily align with what the overall plan and a disconnect that I see between a CEO needs short-term results and under pressure junior marketers who only know the KPI that their platform is probably teaching them.
All right. No, that's a good one. And also, most of the audience are not marketing people, so everyone knows what a KPI is. But a ROAS is a return on ad spend for anybody who's in. Actually,
Absolutely, yeah.
the single biggest, they're not most listeners or watchers, but the biggest single minority group, if you will, that watches the podcast are heads of sales.
Interesting. So
Yeah,
that is
I
interesting
guess
because
if you're the head of
sales.
sales and there's no CMO, you kind of want to put someone in, get someone in that role because someone has to do it. It's not going to be you.
I think that's a very, very good point, that Dean,
Wow.
because a lot of I would say, larger businesses, they have this kind of,
Mhm.
we do marketing. You're a Procter and Gamble of the world. You spend
Right.
millions, and you have this luxury of spending millions and millions and across categories and across the world on loads of things to maintain share of voice. And you got search and out of home and TV. And a lot of smaller businesses that I'm working with, they don't have that luxury. So actually, the first reality is for a lot of marketing people is to understand that the sales team are front and center of their
Hmm.
growth. And I think it's not a sexy thing to say and talk about
No.
in the online, I don't think, but let's get real a minute. I'm saying sales is like a human media channel. Like it's a funnel, right? If we can work together, it's going to be better. We're not here just to service and give you leads. We're here to do something wider. But going back to the education piece with sales, sometimes, to your point, there is a little bit of short term, you're only as good as your last quarter, a little
Yeah.
bit of that kind of market thinking. So I think sometimes the marketing piece about ROAS and short termism, which is how much you get back straight away from what you spend, which is performance focused, that can really resonate with sales teams. Whereas other pieces, it might be about looking at the share of search, and it's important because fighting off competitive eyeballs, that can get lost a bit on sales. So I think it's understanding the mindset of these people as well, which I think is often overlooked with smaller companies.
All right. Second or next, fill in the blank question. You're on a stage. You're the speaker. You're talking to an audience of hundreds of people who became a fractional CMO last week. Like they're brand new in the fractional
Right.
CMO world. Okay. And finish this sentence. A fractional CMO starting out is going to be shocked by what?
The scale of the opportunity, but potentially frustrated by how much they can actually impact.
Right.
So if you're a seasoned marketing consultant and you understand the tenets of the marketing discipline, there's a lot you can do, and you're probably a wannabe fractional CMO because you have this yearning curiosity to work with different clients and apply some strategic thinking to different challenges, which is really great. It's important to remember the reality. So it's like when I talk about strategy work, there's a purist strategy, and then there's strategy grounded in the reality of the business. I think understanding that, don't be so wet behind the ears on this one. Go into a business with the perfect purist mindset. I want to help with the product. I want to help with pricing strategy. The reality is, when you go into businesses, all of you sat in this mythical arena, is you're going to be a little bit potentially hamstrung from the start, and it's up to you to help share and convey the value that you can bring across those disciplines. You may be doing a little bit less than maybe you'd want to, but that's part of the challenge, right? So it's just a little watch out.
So as you talk to clients, companies, fractional CMOs, what do you think is overrated right now? A tool, a platform, an idea, right? What's over? What do people talk about? And it's like, guys, this is not as important as you think, or this is not going to last, or what's overrated?
I mean, I'm sure everyone comes on here and says about AI, right? How it's
Yes.
misunderstood, and I don't want to go down that route. All I'd say with AI is it can be great and it can be terrible. I always say it's an enabler, not an outcome. It can help you synthesize data, research, come up with ideas and checklists, but ultimately the output needs to be human, and I will always vouch for that. AI used in the right way and wrong way can be good and bad. That's not my answer to this question. I think my answer to this question can be the over platformization, for the want of a better phrase, of certain things. So you'll have nothing against HubSpot, but you'll have HubSpot specialists, right?
Sure.
And it's like someone, the CEO 5 years ago, or the former CMO who left or went made redundant, was really big on HubSpot. So now people are shoehorning themselves into HubSpot because they went, because they believe in inbound marketing and they read a Seth Godin book a few years ago. Now they're all valid things, but sometimes I feel like the tech tail can wag the dog too much. So things like inbound marketing, Google as well, the Google marketing platform. I mean, you go on their insights and they do some brilliant search stuff, but their recommendations might be shock horror, use YouTube. So I'm very much, my overall view is quite holistic in respect that if you're going to be working with technology, it needs to be fit for purpose. Like you have a problem and you solve it with a tech. You don't reverse it to have the tech solve your problem.
Oh, that's a good answer. And then what's underrated? What do you think people don't pay enough attention to, or is coming up? Yeah.
So when I do sort of strategy and planning and marketing, I always talk about the different types of, the customer, competitor, company, and the customer piece. You learn about wider publicly available data. You might do some surveys. I'm not a big fan of focus groups and stuff, but what I am a fan of is having real ethnographic understanding. And there's been a lot of ring around small businesses where they sometimes act too big in their approaches, like they're small and they could be nimble and lean into their smallness, if you like, to learn, but then they act big with big things and big platforms designed for big companies. And actually, if you break it down a little bit, if you've got a good relationship where you can go and have a coffee with your main client, or you want to go and go out for lunch with the finance team, or you want to go and speak to a prospective customer and then do a pop-up, go and imbue yourself in these people. Learn the stuff that's not on the spreadsheet, that's not on the data and on the report. Go and learn from humans, because humans are ultimately the ones, B2B or B2C, who are making those decisions, and understanding their psychology is so, it's so in a world of tech and data and shortcuts. I think that's the most important yet underutilized approach sometimes.
As fractional CMO, how do clients typically find you, or how do you find clients?
It's the classic. It's the classic analogy of builders live in terrible houses
Yeah,
sometimes. So I could say that I'm a hypocrite because I don't. I don't always. I mean, it does depend by client, of course, and I treat
right.
myself as a client in that respect. But I probably need to give myself a bit more marketing strategy love, as I would to any client. But it's the whole adage of working in and on the business. But I would say that when I've got time on my hands, I will be sharing value and content through my newsletter, and I think by sharing thoughts and ideas and things that are absolutely free to subscribers all over the world, it does give a window into the way that I think, and I try and be practical and bring in sources of relevance without parroting the same sort of sycophancy. I just think there's an important there is an important personal piece there, Dean, of showing how you think, showing you've got some intelligence and some critical thinking, but you've got to be not necessarily unique and provocative, but be who you are. That's really important. So I use that as quite a good lead tool, and having these kinds of conversations and learning off others. I'm quite a curious person. I want to learn off people who've been doing this longer than me. I want to learn with people who've been embedded with a client for 30 years. I want to learn off people who are
Yeah.
changing the face of influencer marketing. It's important to keep learning, and I think with those partnerships, I get referred work sometimes as well. We got clients who, for example, I know I work with a design and branding agency. They do web design, identity work, TOV for my clients, and vice versa. They do it for their clients. And if they need some more sort of holistic marketing planning, I think that's where the gap is identified, because these people are already in knowing those gaps as well. So I think it just depends on where I'm at really as well, and how much capacity I've got, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat. I have a confession to make around that. So
Hmm?
I didn't start focusing on a mailing list or sending regularly, like once a week or so, to a mailing list until this year. So, and it's the end of 2024 right now. So, January 2024. That was after I had writing email campaigns and stuff for other clients. I'd had the most conservative estimate, because that's all I go for, because it could be a lot more. I'd had at least 50 million emails opened that I had written for other companies before I focused on regularly sending to my own list.
Yeah.
How's that for the cobbler's children have no shoes, right?
This is exactly my point.
Minimum
And
50 million. Yeah.
I would say that's a compliment to your and my work, though, because genuinely, I'm so when I'm in with a client, I'm really sort of in their brain. Well, they're in my brain anyway, and I'm in it and I'm locked in. And then by the end of the day, when I've been doing some work for them, I don't want to be thinking
Right.
it for, oh, well, let me do my own commercial development and marketing. I do. Yeah. It's a human thing as well. Let's be clear on this. We're only human. We're not. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not a HubSpot. So there's times where I need to just sort of go with the flows on that one a little bit on a human basis.
So normally we would do an outro right now, but I want to stick with email for just another moment.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions for you. One, isn't it because people sign up, like we're in the same situation, similar in that, like, people like get on your mailing list, and then once a week or once a month or whatever your cadence is, they get like a newsletter or just, a missive from you, right? Were you surprised, or are you surprised by how many people reply back to someone who sends them a newsletter with comments or any and then B, are you surprised that email, which is, arguably, email way predates web, the HTML, right? So the oldest and, like, in most respects, dumbest internet marketing channel is still so powerful. So were you surprised how many people reply back?
Yeah.
And are you surprised that the oldest, dumbest channel is still, like, arguably the most powerful channel?
There's two parts to that, Dean, for me. For
Yeah.
example, I'll do a newsletter that I think is going to really provoke. This is the whole thing
Mhm.
about learning about your customers. We should never be too arrogant and dogmatic about it, because sometimes I'll write something about a topic that I think is very important, and it is. So it's like, I don't know, it was about targeting or something. I don't know. I can't remember now. And I thought, oh, this is going to absolutely fly. People are going to be chatting. They're going to be emailing me, and it was absolute crickets for the month, right? And I was just, oh, okay. Did it send? I go on the platform, check
Yeah.
the TT,
Yep.
and it did, and it got opened and it got some like vanity metrics, but it wasn't like a real conversational thing. But then on the other end of it, again, learning, I did something a couple of months ago about research, and I just thought it's a little bit of a straightforward
Yeah.
thing. It was a bit back to basics, but it was important, and that got really well received. I got some voice notes. I got a couple of people who've quoted it and shared it on Twitter, LinkedIn. Someone's put it in a newsletter today, and and sometimes I think you need to be open-minded about. You can be consistent. It's like anything. It could be LinkedIn updates. It could be a campaign. It could be CT. Anything. You need to sometimes, learn to adapt, but keep going, because not everything's going to be created equal. Like, you could do one thing
Right.
one month and it's perfect, and then another month it's like, oh, I've got time for this. So
Yeah.
there's that. Going back to your email comment, yes, I think I get a lot of my work done on email. I think a lot of people also work in other ways on Slacks, which I'm not a fan of, but it's personal. I've had to adapt to some clients who might use Teams or Slack, unfortunately, and obviously I don't want them saying that. I mean, I am working with you. I'm
Mhm.
learning as I go, but I think I co-founded a initiative, a not-for-profit initiative as well on the side about neurodiversity recently, and for example. I send big emails out and updates to everyone, and we get a few replies, whatever. But then the WhatsApp group is where everything's happening. WhatsApp is where we're all communicating, and we're like with a couple of clients as well. So I think
Yep.
it's understanding who your audience are, whether it's your clients or your subscriber list. Sometimes email will work, sometimes it won't, and sometimes one email will work when you think it
Yeah.
won't, and vice versa. Genuinely, I don't know about you, Dean, but have you ever had that where it's like, oh, okay, that didn't
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah. So I wrote one a few weeks ago, which was I don't normally write a series, but I was putting together like a promo video for my own company after having written several in the last few weeks for clients. And I said, there's a structure and a way to do this. And if I just follow this, template, I mean, it's always going to be different, but at least I know I included it's like a checklist, all the pieces. And I wrote like a 5 day in a row thing, and it got, some replies. And then last week, I sent one out where I happened to have a real life example. I had been provided with an anonymized voicemail script that a company was using, its
Wow, okay.
Salesforce was using, and then I was asked to like rewrite it, and I did. And I said, you know what? I almost never have real world before and after that I can show, without
Yeah,
like
exactly.
saying
Yeah.
who it's from, right? Because it was anonymized before it got to me. That was the point. So I didn't know the company I was writing for. It's rare. But, and so I just like, I laid it out and said, here's like a screenshot. Here's like the original. And here's like the new one. And here's like the 7 things that have been changed in it so that people will actually call back. And that exploded. I got
Yeah.
2 new clients, $2 billion companies.
Incredible.
Like I had like $1 billion client for much of the year, and then just recently, got Accenture. It's another one. 2 weeks ago, and then this week 2 more. It's like, yeah,
Incredible.
can you write that for us? It's
Is
like,
it because is that kind of like
and I
clear?
just tossed it off. It's like, I can't believe this. It's
Is
voicemail, for God's sakes.
it because like a
Uh,
clear gear shift, isn't it? I don't know. People
yeah,
pick up on things that are different when someone's almost not disrupting themselves. That's a bit grandiose, but when you make a
yeah,
different approach, people sometimes it evokes a new segment of your list who
yeah.
weren't previously engaged. Say,
Or people look at you in a way they hadn't thought about you before, I guess. Like
which
they
can
all
be
knew that I write short copy for sales teams, and all my work mostly comes from fractional CMOs and CROs and their clients. And all of a sudden, it's like, really, voicemail? Like, most people didn't know voicemails were scripted, and B, didn't know that there were people who get paid to write that stuff.
fantastic.
And voicemail, of all things, turned out to be like
I love
huge.
it. I love it. I just like the whole thing about sound as well, and voice and
Yeah.
sonic marketing. It's a
Yeah, there's
fascinating
something to be
topic.
said for that, right? You have the human voice element, which you don't have in most internet marketing, other than video. And I guess if you consider audio podcasts, marketing, then there's that.
I think we're
So,
doing
and
like a
then,
video meets
yeah,
audio here. So, I mean, you're touching on 2 areas where I don't typically do it. I mean, apparently I've been told by people I should do more video and stuff, but I just getting around to it. But generally I'm an email newsletter guy, but then
Yeah.
it's good to speak to someone new in a different way who learns something new about you as well. Your voice, your tone,
Yeah.
your way you are. I think it's just, again, it's like category entry points in marketing. You've got different people who respond to different needs or areas of interest, right? So I think it's super interesting. That is.
Oh, well, you never know. But for anybody who has even a little tiny email list, you should be emailing your list. I'm serious. Email to your list regularly. It's great. It's probably the only marketing channel where someone, unless you take them out of the flow with what you write or how you lay it out, they can almost think like you're talking just to them.
And it's
Right?
all about,
Nobody thinks of
you're a
billboard as
copywriter as
being
well.
just you.
You know how to write as well, right? So I think some people sometimes
Yeah.
forget that disconnect. If you've got a list of 700 people, you might say you're all doing that, but change it to you're doing. It's the little things, isn't it? Like think of everyone as an audience of one.
Yeah. Or the advice that I give for people who want to write email, no matter, I said, you really should just write for listeners. Imagine that someone's going to read it aloud to someone else who can't see it. If they can understand everything, you've got a winner. Otherwise, if they have to stop and rewind and stuff, people can't do that when they're listening, right? Listening is a river and reading is a painting. You can stare at it. You can look at different parts of it. You can go back, whatever. It's not going anywhere, right? It's static and your eyes move. But in listening, right, the words are moving and you're static. And so it's like standing in a river. You can't rewind the river.
That's really cool. I like that analogy.
Yeah. All right. So who should be contacting you these days and how should they do it?
Me, well, archman.com as per the notes in the picture. That's my website.
ARCHMON for anyone who's listening but not watching.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, archman.com. And I have a contact form on there. Mm-hmm. You can also reach me, contact@archman.com. You can connect to me on LinkedIn as well. And of course, my LinkedIn page and my Substack. My frontofmind.substack.com is my newsletter, which is the basic marketing fundamentals email that I've been sending every month for the last 3 years. So
I think
they're my areas.
And I'm going to have a conversation at some point about Substack. That's a whole other thing, but yeah.
I mean that. Yeah, I have a medium height relationship with it, but no, it's okay. I think it's got great potential and stuff, but you could get lost in it. There's so many. Yeah, that's a whole. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we've got time for this on this call.
Yeah. All right. This has been great. This is one of the most fun ones I've ever done. All right.
Oh, so, Dean, likewise, I've really enjoyed this chat.
And you stuck around for a second. Everyone else, you can go. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Cheers, Dean.